If you're in Europe and you want to start investing, one of the first questions you will have is which broker should I use? And this is actually a really important decision because the wrong broker can cost you hundreds or even thousands of euros or pounds in unnecessary fees over time. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what to look for in a broker, which brokers I recommend for Europeans, and which ones you should absolutely avoid. So before I tell you which brokers to use, you need to understand what makes a good broker in the first place, because a lot of people just pick the first one that they find or the one with the flashiest ads, and then they end up paying way more in fees than they should be. So here's what you actually need to look at. The first thing is fees, and this is the most important one. Every time you buy or sell an investment, most brokers will charge you a small fee, and those fees can add up fast. Some brokers charge a flat fee per transaction. This can be anything like €1, €5, €10. Every time you buy, you will be paying that transaction fee. And others don't charge transaction fees, but they do charge a percentage of the amount that you have invested. For example, 0.5% or 1% of the money that you have in your investing account. And then we have some brokers that advertise themselves as commission free. However, usually when they do that, they do make money in other sneaky ways, which I will get to in a minute. Now, most brokers that we talk about in this video have a selection of funds or investment options that they don't charge commission or transaction fees on, or they don't charge more than €1, so they have a very small fee for them. So honestly, you usually don't have to go for a broker that is much more expensive than that, and I would actually recommend you not to. Of course, this is a bit different based on which European country you're from. In some countries, especially with local brokers or investment platforms, you may come across an annual percentage-based platform or custody fee instead of just a transaction fee. And in that case, I would personally avoid paying more than 0.5%. But honestly, the cheaper, the better, and fees should be the main factor that you base your decision on. Now, except for transaction fees, there's also a bunch of other fees, so let's familiarize you with some of that. First, we have currency conversion fees, which catches a lot of people off guard, because if you're investing in ETFs or stocks that are traded in a different currency, like US dollars, some brokers will charge you a currency conversion fee every time you buy or sell. And these fees can be high. Sometimes they're 0.5%, sometimes they're more than that. Then we also have account fees. And basically that means that a broker charges you just for having an account with them. So maybe that's a monthly fee. It can also be an inactivity fee if you don't make enough transactions. And you want to avoid this because there's plenty of brokers out there that don't charge account fees, so there really is no reason to pay for one. Then aside for fees, the other thing that you really want to look at is broker tax reporting. Now, this is huge because a lot of people don't think about this until tax season, and then they don't know how to file their taxes. So depending on which country you live in, you might need to report your investments and capital gains to your tax authority. This is different per country, but some brokers make this really easy for you. They give you a clear tax report at the end of the year with all the information that you need. Some brokers even file some of the information for you, so they forward it to the tax authorities in your country, and other brokers give you nothing and you have to figure it out yourself, which usually is a paper nightmare. So check what kind of tax support your broker offers before you sign up. And the third thing is look at what you can actually invest in, because not all brokers let you invest in the same things, and not all investment options can be bought at every broker. Some brokers have a limited selection of ETFs or index funds, and some have very extensive options. So make sure that the broker that you choose actually offers the investments that you're planning on buying. All right, now let's talk about things to avoid, as well as the sneaky stuff that some brokers do to make money off of you. Because some brokers advertise themselves as free or commission free, as I mentioned, but they are still making money. They need to make money off of you somehow. So they're just doing it in ways that you don't immediately see. This, of course, is not the case for all commission-free brokers. Most reputable brokers have just a small selection that is commission-free, and then they have other investments that you do pay commission or transaction fees on. So then that's the way that they're making money, and that is completely fine. But what you want to watch out for is brokers that advertise with commission-free but charge you elsewhere. So an example of a broker that does that is eToro, and a lot of people have their accounts with them because because they have a lot of budget in advertising. But the main problem with eToro is that everything operates in US dollars. So even though they advertise with commission-free trading, if you are depositing in any other valuta, which anyone in Europe would, you're paying conversion fees to turn your euros, pounds, or any other valuta into dollars when you deposit. And you pay conversion fee again when you're withdrawing and converting back to the valuta of your home country. So you're losing money on currency conversion, both coming and going, which makes it much more expensive than it looks. And they are sneaky about that fact by advertising as commission free, while they do in fact end up being more expensive than other brokers. Another thing that you want to look out for are the inactivity fees that we mentioned. Some brokers will charge you if you don't trade enough. So if you're a passive investor who just wants to buy and hold, you could get hit with high fees for not being active enough. And lastly, I would strongly recommend you to avoid banks. A lot of people think I will just invest through my bank, it's easy, and I already have an account there anyways. Don't do this because banks charge way higher fees than online do-it-yourself brokers. Their management fees alone are usually between 1 to 2%, which is way higher than the 0.03% that you could be paying by buying index funds on a DIY broker. The difference can actually be more than 100,000 over your investing time span. So there's no reason to pay those fees when you can use a broker that charges you €1 or even zero. All right, so now that you know what to look for, let me tell you which brokers I actually recommend. One thing that is really important to understand before we dive in is that the best broker depends heavily on what country you live in. Again, the tax landscape across Europe is so different, and one of the biggest factors next to fees is whether or not a broker handles your taxes for you, or at least makes them easy. Some brokers will automatically calculate and report everything, others leave it completely up to yourself. Keep your country in mind as we go through these, and do some extra research on your specific local situation after watching this video, but this will be a great starting point for you. So the first broker that I want to talk about is DeGiro. DeGiro is one of the most popular brokers in Europe, and for good reason. They have very low fees. You can buy most of their ETFs for a €1 fee if they are on their core selection list, which includes a lot of the most popular index funds. So you will most likely only pay €1, and if you want something that is not on their core selection list, it is usually around €3, but it depends on the exchange that it's listed on. They also don't charge you any account fees or inactivity fees. And what I personally really like about DeGiro is that they have a very broad selection of ETFs and stocks available. So most things that you'd want to buy, you will most likely have access to. Tax-wise, DeGiro is a very strong choice if you live in the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Ireland, because they do provide detailed tax reports, and in some of these countries it is even handled for you. If you live in countries like France or Austria, you might have to do a little bit more of the tax work yourself, so it might not be the smoothest option there. One downside that applies to DeGiro everywhere is that you can automate money that goes into the account, but you cannot automate buying shares. You do need to log into the app and do that manually. It only takes about a minute, so it's not really that big of a deal, but some people just don't even want to log in and just want to have the entire process of buying shares automated. And if that's what you want, DeGiro doesn't have that option. Overall, it's a very solid choice for most European investors, but how smooth the experience is really depends on your country. So make sure to look into that. Then secondly, I want to discuss a Trading 212. So Trading 212 is a very great option, especially if you want true commission-free investing. They don't charge any fees for buying or selling stocks or ETFs, nothing. They also have a clean, easy to use app, which makes it very beginner friendly. And they have a feature called Pies that lets you set up automated portfolios, so you can actually automate your entire share buying process, which is pretty cool. Tax-wise, Trading 212 works very well in the UK, where you can also open a ISA account through them. In countries like Ireland, Austria, Germany, it is a foreign broker, so the tax reporting is a bit more basic, and you will be doing more of that work yourself. It's a really good option if low fees and a nice app are your priority, especially for UK residents. But also in other countries countries in Europe, Trading 212 is active and can be a good option. Then the third broker is Trade Republic. This is a German broker that has been expanding very fast across Europe. They're now available in around 18 European countries and they have over 8 million users. So chances are that you can use them wherever you are located. They charge about €1 per trade, which is very low, but if you set up a savings plan, which means that you're automating your monthly investments again into a ETF, then you don't pay any transaction fee at all. They also offer fractional shares, which means that, for example, if you want to buy a fund that costs €100 per share, but you only have €50, then you can buy half a share. So you can really get started on any amount. The app is super clean and simple, which makes it really beginner friendly. And they also pay interest on any uninvested cash that is sitting in your account. And I do think that that's a very, very big bonus. So if you have money inside your portfolio that you don't want to invest yet, you just want to put it aside to maybe, invest if there's like a dip or anything like that, then you do still make money over that, even though it's not invested. If you're in Germany, they handle your taxes automatically, which is amazing. It's not the case for every country, so make sure to check whether they make taxes easy for you in your specific local situation before you sign up. The downside to Trade Republic is that their customer service is known to be slow, and their investment selection, while decent, it is more limited than brokers than DeGiro or Interactive Brokers. So if you're looking for very niche stocks or more advanced investing options, then you might hit a wall. Then we're going to discuss Interactive Brokers. Interactive Brokers is the most international broker on this list, and I would even argue in the world, because they operate in over 200 countries. So if you're planning on moving abroad in the future or want access to a huge range of investment options, then this is your broker. They have access to pretty much every market in the world and their fees are pretty competitive. Now, the big advantage of Interactive Brokers is flexibility. Again, if you're planning on moving countries, Interactive Brokers has the highest likelihood of letting you keep your account and transfer it across borders, which is huge if you're not planning to stay in one place forever. The downside is that their platform is much more complicated and not the most beginner-friendly platform out there. And in most European countries, they don't really handle your taxes for you, so you need to be comfortable with doing that yourself or getting help with it. Interactive Brokers is therefore best suited for more experienced investors, people who move around, or anyone who wants access to investments that aren't available on simpler platforms. Then next up is Nordnet. If you live in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, or Finland, Nordnet is one of the best local options you have because they operate across all 4 Nordic countries, they have low fees, and they offer a really platform that works for both beginners and more advanced investors. They also have their own free index funds covering global, US, and emerging markets, which makes it really easy to build a diversified portfolio at low cost. And if you are located in any of the Nordic countries and want a local broker that understands your tax system, then Nordnet is a good place to start. All right, so to wrap this up, if you're in Europe and you want to start investing, pick a broker with low fees, good tax reporting, and access to the investments that you want. And before you sign up for any broker, check what the tax situation is in your country and make sure the broker that you choose makes that for you. If you want the full step-by-step on what to actually buy once you have your broker set up, I have a whole video on my top 5 ETFs for European investors, and you can check that out here. I also host a free beginners masterclass specifically for Europeans who want to start investing. It walks you through exactly how to get started, and the link of that is in the description. If this video was helpful in any way, I'd love it if you liked and subscribed because I will keep breaking down investing in an easy way, and I'm wishing you a great day and hoping to see you in the next video.